In 1970, Bell Labs engineer Amos Joel came up with an idea that worked so well that we use it today without giving it a second thought. Cell phones were in use before 1970, but among other problems, a user could not leave the base cellular area without the call being lost. Joel's system divided geographic areas into cells. A microprocessor could identify the phone and switch the connection as a user traveled from cell to cell. In 1965, engineers at Texas Instruments set to work shrinking calculators using integrated circuit technology that had been invented in-house. By 1967, they had a battery-powered prototype capable of 4 simple arithmetic functions on 6-digit numbers. It was the size of a paperback book and weighed nearly 3 pounds. In late 1970, Japan's Busicom introduced the first pocket-sized calculator. It was the first to use an LED display and the first with an integrated circuit designed specifically for calculators. Many people might imagine that the iconic Sony Walkman, introduced in 1979, was the original personal cassette player. German-born TV executive Andreas Pavel filed patents for a very similar device 2 years earlier in 1977, but failed to secure financial backing for his idea. After the Sony Walkman launched, to immediate acclaim, Pavel set out on a legal battle that took most of the next 25 years. It was settled in 2003, when Sony is believed to have paid Pavel more than $10 million. Hybrid vehicles have 2 different types of engines running parallel, usually gasoline and electric. While hybrid technology seems recent, it actually dates back to the 19th century. In 1974, electrical engineer Herman Wouk and his friend, Charles Rosen, adapted a Buick Skylark as a gasoline-electric hybrid that doubled the gas mileage of similarly sized cars. In 1997, Japan launched the first mass-produced hybrid vehicle, the Toyota Prius. In 2023, over 1,275,000 hybrid vehicles were sold worldwide. The development of computed tomography, or CT scan, also known as a CAT scan, revolutionized medical imaging. In the early 1970s, Godfrey Hounsfield, a British engineer, and Alan Cormack, a South African-American physicist, independently developed the technology that would enable detailed cross-sectional images of the body's internal structures. The first clinical CT scan was performed in 1971 at Atkinson Morley Hospital in London, capturing detailed images of a patient's brain. In 1972, U.S. inventor Seymour Cray revolutionized computer design. He set up the Cray Research Company to concentrate on building a powerful computer. The Cray 1 was the first major commercial success in supercomputing. It was essentially a giant microprocessor capable of completing 133 million operations per second. The Cray 2, introduced in 1985, was 6 to 12 times faster, with 10 times the memory. Cray's supercomputers have been used to predict weather, design airplanes, and explore for oil. Before joining Kodak, electrical engineering student Steve Sasson thought it was possible to make a camera using solid-state electronics. By December 1975, he had a prototype ready for testing. It weighed 8 pounds and was the size of a toaster. Sasson convinced a lab assistant to pose for a test shot. It took 23 seconds to record the image on a cassette, and another 23 seconds to be read from the tape and displayed on a screen. In 1978, Rob Barnaby of Micropro International created the first commercially successful word processing program, WordStar. Unlike most early computer software, the word processor was created to satisfy the needs of writers, not mathematicians or engineers. WordStar was feature-rich and easy to use. It fought off all emerging competition on the market to become the most popular word processing software in the world. There are many contenders for the title of first-ever personal computer, but in 1973, Xerox PARC made the first personal computer as we recognize it today. It was called the Alto, named after the California Palo Alto Research Center. It was designed primarily for research and had to be compact enough to fit in an office. The Alto was powerful enough to support a user interface while being able to share information between machines. The roots of magnetic resonance imaging, MRI, date back to the 1930s and 1940s, with advancements in understanding nuclear magnetic resonance. While training as a doctor in New York, Raymond Vahan successfully imaged a tumor in a mouse and conducted the first MRI body scan of a human in 1977. The first commercial MRI machines became available in the 1980s, and since then, MRI has become a cornerstone in medical diagnostics, offering detailed images of the body's internal structures. The first space station, Salyut 1, was launched by the USSR on April 14, 1971. The three-man crew that first occupied the Salyut was there for only 24 days. Sadly, they died when their capsule depressurized while returning to Earth. Later generations of Soviet space stations, such as Mir, had 2 docking ports and water regeneration facilities. They were designed to remain in space permanently. The first U.S. space station, Skylab, was 3 times the size of Mir and was launched in 1973. In 1970, the Hamilton Watch Company's Pulsar was the first wrist-worn digital timepiece. Hamilton claimed that their inspiration for the watch was the futuristic digital clock they created for the 1968 film 2001: A Space Odyssey. At $2,100, the Pulsar was too expensive for most people. In 1975, Texas Instruments developed a plastic-strapped version for $20 and later dropped the price to $10. In 1967, IBM was looking for a better way to send software to its customers. Their mainframe computers booted up from big, heavy magnetic tapes, which were slow and expensive to ship. Engineer David L. Noble proposed a new system based on a flexible disk made of magnetic material. IBM released an 8-inch disk made from flexible plastic in 1971. A few years later, the disk size shrank to 5¼ inches and finally to 3½ inches, as seen here. Billions of floppy disks were manufactured, and the 3½ inch disks are still being used today. In the 1960s, inventor Douglas Engelbart invented the computer mouse, which represented a milestone in computer interaction. In 1971, Dr. Samuel C. Hurst invented the electronic touchscreen interface. It was an input tablet that could measure where the user was pressing a stylus. Hurst formed the Ella Graphics Company to make and sell the device. In 1977, the company came up with a resistive touchscreen that worked with a simple finger touch. In 1969, computer programmer Ray Tomlinson implemented the first email system capable of sending messages to users on different host systems. Previously, mail could be sent only to others who used the same computer. To achieve this, he used the @ sign to separate the username from the name of their machine. The Internet Hall of Fame said, Tomlinson's email program brought about a complete revolution, fundamentally changing the way people communicate. If you enjoyed this trip down memory lane and learned something new, don't forget to give us a thumbs up. Share this video with friends who love 70s nostalgia and tech history. We'd love to hear your thoughts. Which 1970s invention do you think had the most impact? Drop a comment below and let's get the conversation started. And don't forget to subscribe for more amazing content on the inventions that shaped our world.